As I get started today, Mike gave me a note here I'm going to read. It says new song. It says thank you. Thank you all for remembering me in such a special way with a beautiful card and gift and the visit from Tammy and Craig brightened my day so much. I'm looking forward to coming back to church and seeing all of you. Love, Betty. Betty, we love you and we miss you. Isn't that right, everyone?
Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you, Betty. Thank you, Mike, for bringing that. Thank you, Betty, for being awesome. We love you and we miss you. All right. Well, God is good.
All the time.
And all the time.
God is good.
I don't know if you can make out that picture very well. Let me just back off here. Can you see what's going on in the picture? That's an actual cartoon from the 19th century when electricity was first introduced. So here's a police officer running, and he drops his baton, and the light pole says electric light, and you see like there's a skull up there, and there's a guy tangled in the wires. The horse has collapsed in the street. This woman is fainting. I didn't realize this. When they introduced electricity into big cities, people were terrified of it. I would be terrified to go without electricity now. Think how hard it would be. Like, I don't know, several months ago we had a big storm here in Kingsport and the power was out for 6 hours. And I thought, man, when is it going to come back on? Think of the poor people from Hurricane Laura right now. Louisiana and Arkansas and Texas. You know, there's probably 100,000 people still without electricity. Think how poor it would be. So it's hard for me to get in my mind that when electricity first came out, people were terrified of it. I want to tell you another story that also begins with a little bit of fear. And you probably know it. In 1519, when Cortez lands on a new world, you know the story, right? Maybe you don't. He had 12 ships. And depending on which historian you read, he either burned 11 of them or he sunk 11 of them. Why did he do that? Well, he was afraid of two things. One, he was afraid of mutiny. Here he is, all the way across the globe in this was called the New World, right? All the way over here, his men might mutiny and take their ships and go back to Spain. Couldn't have that. He was also afraid that people would lose the ability to stay on task. And if they kept looking at the shore and knew that there was an escape route, that they might just give up when things got hard, and there wouldn't necessarily be a mutiny, but it may be that just people might just quit and go away and go back to Spain. So he burns or sinks 11 of the ships, saves one, which he fills with gold and sends back to this king of Spain. So we live in what was called the New World. How did people navigate the New World back then? Think about these explorers. Think about the conquistadors. Think about pilgrims. Think about pioneers. Think about people who come to the New World. How did they get there? Well, first of all, go ahead, Colin.
Stars?
The stars, yes. They kept an eye on the northern star. So they had compasses, which weren't exactly reliable. They had a sextant, which they could look through and navigate. Yes, they looked at the stars. They had maps. Have you ever seen an ancient map, like from the 1500s or the 1600s? There would be parts of the world that what they knew, and they would draw, and then parts that they weren't familiar with, they would write literally on the map. There'd be dragons here to scare people away from going into these unknown parts. Not very reliable maps, right? So they had a sense of direction, and they would try to navigate, and they would do the best that they can. Put yourself in their shoes for a moment. It's a new world, new experiences. There's no rule book or manual on how to navigate this new Don't be afraid, because here be dragons. I'm convinced we have found ourselves in a new world. So think about it. For over a generation, we've had the jet engine, which has allowed us to do what? Travel the world, right? Back then, it would take months and months to cross the Atlantic, or a year to circumnavigate the globe, like Magellan, right? And how dangerous that was. A lot of people died trying to go around the world in a boat. For us now, hey Mike, do you remember the Concorde?
Yeah.
I saw a picture of one the other day, and man, it really brought back some memories. That was a cool plane. I don't know why they got rid of that. But think about that, right? Travel from New York to Paris, I think it was 2 hours.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? What took people months with hardships and stale water in a barrel and nasty food and stinky, sweaty passengers on the boat, 2 hours. So for over a generation, we've had the jet engine, and we can travel anywhere in the world. Robbie, you've been around the world. You've been over to the Middle East. You've been to Egypt, right? For a generation now, it's nothing to just get in a plane. Greg and Kathy, you've been all around the world in the Air Force, right? Get in a plane, go anywhere. Boom. Do you realize now for over 20 years, not only did we fly globally, but now for over 20 years we've had this ability to either plug our computer into the wall, into oh gosh, what were those things called that you dialed up? Modem. You could plug it into a modem, and you could connect to the information superhighway. For over 20 years we've had the internet. So the world got smaller with the jet, got more connected in the past 20 years with the internet. And you realize it's been over 10 years now since we've had smartphones? So now you don't have to plug your old desktop into a modem. Now you can just pull your phone out of your pocket. You can hit Google Maps. You can hit Google Satellite. You can look at any place in the world right now. Don't do it now while I'm preaching. But I'm just saying, you could do that. And I'm saying that to say that the world has at least gotten smaller, right? But it's gone from a complex world to a complicated world. Before it was complex. You had to travel. It was hard. You didn't know what other people were thinking. Now in real time, I can pull up. I've got a BBC app on my phone, and I love the British Broadcasting News. I don't know, it's something about their accent. It's pretty cool. But they've got all these world stories. I can click on that right now and listen to a broadcast from London, England right now, and hear all about the world at any given time. It went from a world that was complex to one now that's complicated. We are in a new world. And in our new world, see, I'm a late bloomer. I didn't go to college till I was like 28. And so I can remember when I was in college and we would write research papers, and in the bibliography, they didn't have a system yet on how to enter stuff off the internet. So at the time, internet searches were not qualified for research papers. Now, of course, if you're going to research something, it means what? Tell me. You Google it, right? That's now in our new world. That's what research means. I'm going to Google it. We talked about school during Welcome. In our new world, school is now a hybrid system, right? Sometimes you're at home. Sometimes you're in the classroom. Sometimes you're on your computer. Sometimes you're face to face. Think how complicated that is now. So you got the living room classroom. Rodney shared a story with me. A loony bin crazy story last week about a kid with a BB gun on the wall while he's at home. And the police are called because now the living room is the classroom. Crazy times we find ourselves in. How about text messaging? Think of how the English language is being changed and how punctuation is being changed. I watched a piece on the news the other night that said if you use punctuation in a text message, it's intimidating to millennials. They think that you're angry if you put a period on it. Robbie, you know what I'm talking about? like, what? Yeah, so I guess younger people, when they text, they don't, well, they probably don't spell very properly, right? We've noticed that shit. But now you don't use punctuation. And then I saw someone on TV the other day, or maybe it was a meme on Facebook, I can't remember, and it said when older people stop and pause and think while they're talking, they're just actually adding 2 spaces between the period in their mind. Right? Now, there's only 1 period in between sentences. The world is changing. Think about how shopping has changed. Obviously, I'm not someone who shops at Lord & Taylor, but I did see on the news this week that they filed bankruptcy. J.C. Penney over here in the Fort Henry Mall, they're what? They're closing. I can still remember Venture, Montgomery Ward, places like that, right? Businesses have always started, fallen, Sears, Roebuck, stuff like that. But think of how shopping really has changed. Brick and mortar is almost gone. If you want something now, what do? Amazon, right? Bezos is the first human in history to be worth $200 billion. Saw that this week in the news. But how do we shop? We buy it online. We at least research it by looking it up online. And chances are, if you're buying something, you're buying it and beyond this, beyond all the technological and travel and all the gadgets that have changed, think about how the family unit has shifted over the years in your lifetime. In the last 15 years, between books for families or gender identity issues, just think of how what has been called the typical family has been changed. And if we're going to be honest, in this new world, people feel less safe and secure. Their physical safety, their physical security, their financial safety, their financial security. Less so in recent history. You cannot turn on the news without seeing violence, looting, burning. Sadly, we have a polarized nation. The new world, right? Everyone's going to come over to the new world. It's going to be the land of opportunity. It's going to be a place where people fulfill their dreams, and now here we are in a new world that's polarized and terrifying. There's a practical joker in me that has a terrible sense of humor, that isn't always mature, that really enjoys watching polls that never turn out to be right, predictions by economists that don't always turn out to be right. Right? And I'm thinking these are the experts. We live in a world where I have to ask the question, how do we navigate this world that defies predictive forecasting? There is no way in January any one of us could have predicted how 2020 would have gone so crazy. There's no way. It wasn't on anybody's radar. The world we live in now is crazy, and it changes, and it shifts from week to week. So how? Here's the question I want you to think through. How do we equip ourselves for an unpredictable world that gets messier and messier every time it orbits the sun? It seems like each new year ushers in something crazy. How do we equip ourselves? What's going to take courage, right? People who charted unnavigated waters, who come into uncut forests, who risk life and limb, right? They had to have courage and confidence in themselves. So we need courage, we need confidence, but we also need a solid anchor to tie off to in the storms, in the turmoil, in the tribulations that we find ourselves in. But you know what's even more important than that? Think about Lewis and Clark. I love the story of Lewis and Clark. I've read several books on Lewis and Clark. I had a great Lewis and Clark mug that Tammy brought me back from out west once. But I opened the cabinet one day and it bounced out and it dropped and it shattered and I was heartbroken. I love the story of Lewis and Clark. How did did they find their way across the mountains? How did they get to the west coast?
They go around.
Huh?
They go around them or they go through
Or they're going
them?
to follow the Missouri River and find the northwest. Go ahead and Google it. Who helped Lewis and Clark? Sacagawea. I was waiting for someone to say Pocahontas, but yes, Sacagawea. While she's got a baby swaddled, she's going to help them get across to the Pacific Northwest. Maps are nice, compasses are nice, but you know what's better? Sacagawea. You need a guide. You need someone who can speak the language. You need someone who knows the terrain. You need someone that helps you when your sense of direction fails. John chapter 14, some theologians say this is the most important paragraph in John's gospel. That it summarizes, that it highlights, that it guides perhaps more than any other paragraph in John's gospel. Jesus tells the disciples, let not your heart be. He could be writing that to us today. There's so many people worried, so many people nervous, so many people anxious, so many people depressed, so many people that are hurting in this new world that we're in. He could be writing this to us today. Let not your hearts be troubled. Why? What's the reason? You believe in God. That's how it reads in the Greek. Believe also in me. You believe in God. You believe in the Father. Believe in me. It's trust in me. Have faith in me is what he is saying. You can depend on me. You believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. Now, in the Greek, this is an add-on room. In the culture, the Greco-Roman period of time, when a son got married, he didn't move to California. He didn't go to Texas. They built another room on the dad's house. There's a central courtyard in the center, and you added rooms onto the house, and it built a big compound in a sense. Intergenerational living. Everyone had their own quarters. And Jesus is saying, in my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? Jesus, I'm going back to my Father's house because I'm getting something ready for you that's going to be phenomenal. A place for you to be with me and the Father in a family setting. We're going to be bonded. We're going to be close. We're going to be together. And I told you this, I'm going to go prepare a place for you that where I am, you may be also. I'm going. I'm traveling. I'm building. I'm creating. I'm going to bring you with me. And one of the disciples, Thomas, insightful, bright, on cue. Jesus says, you know the way where I'm going. And Thomas says, Lord, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm clueless here, right? Lord, we do not know where you're going. How can we know the way? Where's the map? Where's the compass? Where's my Google directions? Where's my GPS? Jesus said to him, I am the way. You didn't leave me a map? I don't have a compass. I don't have a GPS. I am your guide. I am your northern star. I am the map. I am the way. In the Greek, that's the road. The word there is road. I'm the road. I'm the path. I'm the way. You're going to travel with me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you'd known me, you'd known my Father also. So from now on, you know him and you've seen him. Looking at me. I'm not leaving you a compass. I'm not leaving you a map. is the way. Well, Craig, wouldn't you say it's our Bible? Isn't that the path to life? You know, there's a lot of people that can read their Bible and really, they don't know Jesus. It's important to read the Bible. Well, Craig, shouldn't I be baptized? Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people that get baptized that don't always live like Jesus. Well, shouldn't I go to church? Isn't that the way? Well, I don't know where else you're going to find love, encouragement, a nurturing environment. Just because you go to church, that's not going to make you know Jesus. Jesus says, I am the way. I'm not a way. I'm not an optional way. I'm it. No one comes to the Father but through me. You're going to receive a lot of advice over the next 60-something days on how you should vote. You're going to receive a lot of advice in this new world on how you ought to live, how you ought to take care of yourself, how you ought to prioritize your life. You will receive a lot of information from friends, co-workers, media, other sources on how you should conduct yourself in this new normal that we're in. Voting, shopping safely, how to interact. Let me just sum it up, how to do life in general. If that advice isn't anchored in the teachings, the life, the person of Jesus Christ, then you guys remember the story of the Roanoke colony? They disappeared, no trace of them, no one knew where they went. If this advice you're given and you receive isn't anchored in the person of Jesus, then just like historic explorers that were never heard from again, you won't reach your destination. How many here, you don't raise your hands, how many of us here think that Jesus is just a way to heaven, even if he's the only way? Do we need to go to heaven when we leave this life? Isn't it amazing? Think about Jesus for a moment. When he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Mankind's greatest aspiration, perhaps one of their deepest needs, other than I do think humanity's deepest felt need is acceptance, affirmation, whatever, but being accepted in love. Jesus offers something that philosophy, that wisdom literature, that everything that humanity is looking for. We want to know what the truth is. Who likes to be lied to? Who wants to have real insight and knowledge into the way things truly work? Jesus says that's me. He offers truth and he offers life in the hereafter. Everybody wants to know where they're going to go when they die. Even atheists who think that this is all there is, they have to wonder what happens at the point of death, right? Jesus offers humanity what